Skilled Carer is here to provide more than just care. We support families, participants, support workers, care teams and the community to understand disability, reduce stigma, grow capacity, promote happiness and achieve dreams. I started Skilled Carer to provide sustainable growth, trust, integrity and education to the industry. We do this by employing reliable and responsible support workers with high integrity and moral fibre. We educate and support them within the industry, and we liaise with families to find sustainable solutions to their lives and facilitate their needs. Our goal is to enable each person we support to live the life they choose. We facilitate our clients' goals, which may be to rejoin the workforce, get and hold a job or career, master everyday tasks, gain ownership and independence, or access community services, as well as anything else they need and are searching for. We provide education through the zones of regulation to help the individual learn and understand their emotions, recognise others, and implement strategies to help them regulate their emotions and reduce behaviours. All right, welcome.
Sorry.
Great start. So welcome, Moni, and welcome, Michaela. This is the first time we've had 3 people on the podcast. So, Moni, where did our relationship start?
Our relationship started at school, Ryan.
Yeah? How?
So you were a teacher at my school.
Yeah?
That's pretty much it.
That's pretty much it?
Yeah.
What do you, what I wanted to, Emerson is such a great place, and that was where I started, my formative years as a teacher, and that's where I got my philosophy on, working with people and life, really. So I wondered if you had, and I know I'm putting you on the spot, I wondered if you had any fun, specific memories from school that stand out to you.
They don't have to be related to Ryan.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I wouldn't expect them to be if they were fun memories.
Some of them are related to Ryan, playing basketball on the court and shooting around.
Yeah.
That was fun. Doing Friday afternoon basketball.
Yeah.
That was a good
Middle
time.
school?
In middle school, yeah.
Yeah, not seniors? Did you play in seniors?
I did play. Yes, I did. I did play in seniors, yeah.
Because you're probably 7 or 8 years removed from school now, aren't you?
Time
flies.
Crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. So I reckon I must have been in teaching year 9 when you were probably, it was like your first or second year there, I think.
I literally remember your first day.
Oh, there you go. And you were there before me.
Yeah, I was definitely there before you.
How's that? Yeah. Did you make my first day easy or hard?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember. I was a bit of a troublemaker in the court, so.
No, it was good fun, and basketball obviously teaches us a lot, I think. So the fact that you remember and appreciate basketball, I think is really telling because it teaches us, resilience, commitment, responsibility, teamwork, fantastic qualities.
And he's still playing, right?
Yes, I still play basketball, yeah.
And so that relationship for you has continued beyond school.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So, Moni, tell us a little bit about your journey and receiving your diagnosis.
It's hard to know kind of where to start. So, as we mentioned before, I went to a school with Ryan. During that time, I was bullied a lot, and then during senior school, it kind of got worse, and then it kind of stopped as well because like the main person, like the instigator, kind of graduated, and then there was kind of no one to copy. And then when I was 18, I got diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. So I've been in and out of hospital dealing with that, having psych ward admissions, having medical admissions in hospital as well, trying to get help. It's honestly really hard. In the way the system is, I left home at 20. That's been difficult because I've had to adjust without being with mum and dad. So I've had to learn how to manage and sort of do things on my own without having mum and dad there. So I've had like a couple of incidents where I haven't coped without mum and dad, but I've definitely, like the last 6 or so months, I've definitely learnt how to sort of manage these behaviours without, and these emotions that I get without doing the behaviours that I would usually do. And definitely having Michaela on board and Michaela coming out to see me, that's also a very healthy thing for me because I get to talk about her, things that are happening if I'm upset about something or something's happening where I'm living. You know, Michaela's a very good venting source for me, I guess.
Yeah, you've touched on so many amazing things there that I want to go back on, which is why I said this is going to go for it'll go for an hour, don't worry. Yeah, so your journey sort of was within school, but then actually, you know, informative years of understanding your identity and who Moni is as a person really only started and took a spaceship leap after you finished high school.
Yeah, I definitely took a big leap.
Yeah, and that's really confronting. Do you feel like you were capable of dealing with that at that age and emotionally? Because you touched on emotions and the behaviors that come with it. I think the really important part of it is the emotions. It's handling those emotions and understanding your own emotions.
Yes and no. I felt when I moved out of home, I felt very put on the spot and felt like I was kind of chucked in the deep end to have to deal with all these things without mum and dad. So that was quite confronting and scary for me because I was so used to having mum and dad around to give me that comfort, to, you know, encourage me to clean my room, and all of a sudden all those life skills that mum and dad were doing for me, I had to do by myself.
That safe space and that like structured environment was sort of taken away.
Yeah.
And a lot of uncertainty, just from an outsider looking in, and a lot of uncertainty thrust your way. And you kind of had to grow up real quick, I'd imagine.
Yeah, it was definitely a big step. I went like 4 years in maturity because it was just a big step for me, yeah.
So how old are you now?
24.
So this is for sort of, 4 to 6 years ago.
Yeah.
This took place, and then you've been on your journey from there.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Why don't you give us a bit of a, an overview and a rundown of what BPD is?
So basically, when I had no idea what it was when I was originally diagnosed with it. When I was in hospital, I originally got diagnosed with it. I had no idea what it was until, like, I saw a psychiatrist and they, were explaining, and I'm still learning really what the symptoms are and how it affects me. So basically, it's a personality disorder, and I can have very big highs and lows. So I can be like really, really happy within 5 minutes I can go down and be really, really sad. And the smallest things can make me very upset. So I have very big reaction to things. Someone could have a really small reaction to something, but in my mind it's a really big thing, and I can have a really big emotion and reaction to that.
And so it's borderline personality disorder.
Borderline personality disorder.
Or BPD.
I call it BPD because it's easier
than
saying the whole thing.
I bet it is. Perspective, right? Perspective is so important to all of us. For me, something might be a big problem, what I conceive as a big problem, but Michaela might see it as a small problem. Now, in my world, it's big, and that's real. Those emotions are real to me. That's what I think you're describing. Those emotions are real. They're tangible, and you feel them. But for someone else, they're not real, and it's hard for others to sort of understand that perspective is reality.
Yeah, definitely.
So what's your experience been like with, I guess, learning about this diagnosis?
Biggest thing I've learnt definitely is that a lot of the behaviours, so like that people with borderline do, is the stigma around it is that it's attention seeking. So like a lot of times when I've been not well, and police or emergency services or anything like that have had to come out and deal with me. I've been called like an attention seeker. So like the biggest thing for me to learn and accept is that some of those behaviors might be attention seeking to a certain degree. I just don't like the word attention seeking. I like the word a cry for help. So if I'm experiencing a strong emotion and I want someone to help me because I don't know how to deal with it, a lot of the time I will do something to get a reaction out of someone to help me with that situation because I don't know how to emotionally regulate myself. So I used to rely on others to help me with that situation. So
you don't know how to self-regulate yourself yet.
No.
So that's a journey as well in itself, but you will get there.
Yeah, no.
She's worked incredibly hard on it, and she's in comparison to how she used to regulate those emotions, she's already come leaps and bounds. And so I think she teaches me a lot about how to regulate my emotions. She's learned a lot.
Yeah, I mean, on that, from what I took from what you just said was that you've taken ownership over yourself, and whether it's a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder or whatever else, you're Moni as a person, and you understanding yourself and then taking responsibility for that and having the responsibility to educate others about you and your needs. I don't like it when people say, it's just attention-seeking behavior. I like it when people understand and hear that it's a cry for help. Now, whether you like it or not, unfortunately, that's a responsibility that falls upon your shoulders to educate other people
100%.
like Moni, like Michaela, like me, like the other workers that come into your life, like your future housemates, future partners.
100%, yeah.
And I don't know, I'm just very impressed with it that you have such a great reflection on yourself.
Yeah.
I did cut you off there, so
That's okay.
we were talking about your experience and what that was like.
Yeah, talk about definitely, as I was saying, with the police and stuff like that, my experience with the system has been very poor. So like not only my experience dealing with borderline, also having the people that are supposed to help me with that not help me. So going to hospital, being kicked out of hospital, being arrested, being charged, and the people that are sort of supposed to help me with that and learn how to deal with those behaviors haven't been doing that. And only recently I've started to see a good psychologist that is helping me learn how to regulate those emotions and learn how to identify triggers and things that trigger me, and learn how to put boundaries up in relationships and say, I don't like that. I don't like the way you're talking to me. And if, you're going to continue that behavior, I'm going to walk away. So like learning how to, put those boundaries up in relationships.
To protect you, right?
Yeah, to protect me, and also have a healthy relationship with someone. Because if you don't put boundaries up in relationships, then I feel like it's not going to be a healthy one.
Yeah, 100%. That's true in whether it's a work relationship, a romantic relationship, or just a relationship that you have with anyone, and pets and everything. If you let the pet jump on the bed and do what it wants, it'll run the house, it'll growl at you if it thinks it's the boss. Why are you laughing?
I'll start using dog treats for you then.
I think we'll cut that bit out. Probably leave it in.
Leave it in. We're keeping it real. So, Moni, you sort of mentioned, people around you that should have been there to help and maybe they weren't able to help in the way that you needed. Do you think that perhaps has something to do with the lack of understanding and information out there around BPD? And if that's the case, what is some information that you would like to share with people who might find themselves in that situation where they can offer a helping hand? What is something that they could do to help?
Yeah, definitely it is a lack of understanding to the diagnosis, because as I touched on it before, a lot of people just look at the things that we do as just attention. So I guess one thing to understand would be that the behaviours we do, well, I've kind of already mentioned it, isn't like attention seeking, but it's like a cry for help, I guess. So, like, I guess if people can try and understand that the emotions that we experience isn't, and then the behaviours we do during that emotion isn't exactly attention, but it's like a cry for help, kind of.
Do you think it would make a difference if someone in that moment with you was to perhaps just sit with you in that emotion?
Yeah, definitely. If I didn't, it would be helpful to have someone that understood what I was experiencing instead of someone that is going to judge me for that emotion that I'm experiencing. So, because sometimes I have reactions to things that people think are minor, and they go, well, why are you reacting like that? And it's literally because I have a different brain to other people. I can, like I said to Ryan, I can have strong emotions to things. So some people will be like, oh, well, you're being silly, overreacting. But to me, I'm not overreacting.
So
yeah. When you tell someone, hey, don't worry about it, relax,
calm down.
calm down.
Worse.
No one ever calms down. No one ever relaxes. Sometimes we just want to feel like we've been heard and listened
definitely.
to.
And you mentioned the word judgment.
Yeah.
And I think it can be quite easy for people to pass judgment and make up, as you said, make up their own stories in their mind of what's going on in the situation rather than actually asking you maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
One reason why I think your relationship has been so successful, despite Michaela going away for, a month and doing her thing and you've been able to come back and connect, and like that's can leave feelings of abandonment and, it's not an easy situation, but I don't know, it just feels sort of seamless with you two. And I think it, in my opinion, it's because Michaela's gone through her journey of her diagnosis of ADHD. You've been through your journey, and that is what sort of bonds you guys together, is an understanding and an empathy for another person and their personal journey with going through something challenging where you feel sort of left out by society and sort of unheard and unseen.
Yeah.
That's just my observation. I know. Do you want to talk about that first, and then maybe Moni can?
Yeah, I think
I've gone off script here.
You have gone off script. You've thrown us.
I tend to do that.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so I, in all honesty, didn't know about BPD. I didn't even know what borderline personality disorder was until you came to me with Moni as someone that I could potentially work with. And I went away and I did my research and all that sort of thing before meeting Moni. And I think that is one thing. You can do as much research on a diagnosis as you want, but every single person is different.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I actually met Moni in person, with her permission, I asked questions. I asked her, hey, what do you think you need? How can I help? What does work? What doesn't work? And obviously we built that relationship to where she was comfortable to talk to me about these things. And as I said, I always asked, do you mind if I ask you a question about your experience? If you feel uncomfortable, we don't have to chat about it. And over time, I've learned not only just about BPD, but about how that looks for Moni, and understanding that if I, meet someone else throughout life that has BPD, understanding that it could be totally different for them. So I think you use this philosophy a lot, Ryan, in that everyone's an individual and treating everyone with kindness and almost a level of curiosity, and just actually not being scared to talk about these topics. And so, yeah, Moni and I, we chat about these things, and Moni asked me about my ADHD and how that looks for me. And I think that's just probably created a really good level of understanding between the two of us. But with the work that I'm doing, I genuinely enjoy, hanging out with Moni and getting to do the things that we do, and seeing how far Moni has come in the last, how long? It was about March that I met Moni, wasn't it?
First participant.
Yeah, yes.
First opportunity.
Yep. And I've been privileged to see how far Moni's come over the however many months that we've been working together now. And I don't know, I think it's just I don't know, personally, I think we just enjoy kicking goals together, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
Yeah, so when you've met one person with disability, you've met one person with disability.
Exactly.
Yeah, one of one.
Everyone's got.
And you can.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, every single person, and I'm not belittling, mental health or any disabilities in any way, shape, or form. I'm not saying that, we've heard the term, oh, we're all a little ADHD, and I cannot stand that, because that is talking down.
Yeah, you often hear, well, all got a little bit of autism or
oh, that's so OCD.
Yeah.
If you like things clean, and that's really, really negative. It just shouldn't be spoken about like that. But I do think that at the end of the day, we all have to remember that disability or not, mental health issues or not, we are all human beings, and we all have our own individual life experiences and needs. We all have our own wounds and scars. So we need to speak to everyone as an individual.
Yeah, you can strip it back that one more layer. Everyone's got their own idiosyncrasies and what makes them tick, and their traumas of abandonment and what's happened to them as a child or throughout their school lives, and that's what makes us who we are. And so we're all a little bit sensitive to different things. And on a broader topic of things, while I get philosophical here for a moment, that's probably why we seem to find ourselves on social media having arguments with people because one person said something, and it's like one of my idols, Ricky Gervais.
He's great.
Very dark humor, but he talks about that a lot. It's like, someone stands on a soapbox and they say, if you want guitar lessons, come and get the guitar lessons. And then he, the person in the public square comes and takes the guitar lessons, rips it off. He goes, "But I didn't want any guitar lessons." And so it's that's how we all feel. We feel so attacked because someone's offering their opinion on something, and we're all almost overly sensitive about it. You can never say anything and not offend someone. Doesn't matter what it is. I've talked about kindness being a basic philosophy of skilled carer, and people take offense to that somehow, and they say, "Oh, but if you're showing kindness, are you therefore, enabling this and this to happen?" And I'm like, well, you're drawing a very long bow there. It's just the basic principle. And that's what it comes down to when you talk about, what you were just saying. I've gone on a rant here, but we'll keep it. I'll finish off the rant. Moni, the Moni podcast featuring Ranting Ryan. So
there's your headline. But I think that also ties back into what Moni was saying, which is really, she reminds me of this a lot of the time as well, is taking responsibility of our own emotions and wounds. And that doesn't mean that you can just, go around flinging insults around and, that triggered you, that's your problem.
Yeah, that's right. It's about
it's
being
not saying that.
Having a growth mindset. If you're in this line of work that we're in and you're not learning and trying to learn and grow yourself, understand yourself at essence as a person, and that's what the course that we offer to our support workers. First chapter is about understanding yourself as a person. What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? Absolutely focus on your strengths and what you can give people, but then let's work on those weaknesses too. And the same thing that was also my philosophy in the classroom. Now, enough of Ryan.
I was going to say, let's get back to Moni.
All good.
So, during your personal experience, were there specific treatments or things that you came across that did or didn't help you?
Definitely start with the things that did help.
Great place to start.
So at the moment with my psychologist, I'm doing a CBT. So that is teaching me how to acknowledge what my triggers are.
So what's that?
So it stands for cognitive behavior therapy. So there's also something called dialectical behavior therapy, but that's a little bit too advanced for me. So I was talking to my psychologist about it, and he said take a step down and do CBT. And that is pretty much the same thing, but it's just like a little bit less sort of involved and a little bit easier to understand. It's basically just learning about your triggers and what situation triggers what emotion. So at the moment, like, he's making me do, like, so if something happens, he's making me write down like the event that happened and then what emotion it made me feel and then what that trigger is to that emotion. So for like example, if like I had a fight with mum, and she said something that I didn't like, the emotion would be maybe like anger or, you know, feeling a bit sad, and then the trigger to that would be, depending what the fight is, it could be like rejection or having a fight with mum. So definitely for me, learning and breaking that down, having like being able to identify what emotion I'm feeling and what trigger is triggering that emotion has been very helpful for me.
Asking yourself why do I feel this way?
Yeah, why do I feel this way? And then trying to understand how I can avoid that. So Aaron is definitely, my psychologist, is definitely teaching me how to put boundaries up in relationships and say, especially with some of my support workers, because at the moment I live in supported independent living, which is like a SIL, and some of the workers are, you know, not great.
It's an underskilled industry.
It definitely is,
isn't it?
And because I look physically capable.
Well, you're physically and mentally capable.
Yes, and because I don't look like the stereotype person that looks like they have a disability.
We can't see your needs straight away.
No. So, like, they have a very hard time understanding what I need, and that causes, like, a lot of clashes.
A lot of confusion, miscommunication.
And Aaron is teaching me what to say in those situations that I'm having issues with anyone. He's definitely teaching me how to respond to that.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And where was I going with that?
Treatment that has or hasn't.
Oh, yeah, treatment. Yeah, and then things that haven't probably helped, I would definitely say being in hospital. Just being around people that are extremely unwell and seeing people like that has been quite confronting for me. And even though some of it has been positive, a lot of it has been negative. I built like a lot of reliance on going to hospital. So then, you know, I would do behaviours that are risky to get into hospital because then I would know I would go there. And like I was saying before, I would do behaviours to get certain reactions out of people. So reactions that I knew that would send me to hospital, then I'd get attention. I would do that as a coping thing. But that has been very unhelpful and very unhealthy, because then I would be doing things to get into hospital and getting that unhealthy relationship with people in the hospital.
So it sounds like seeing a psychologist and committing to that journey as well has been almost, you know, if not just as important as the other positive therapies, and you taking ownership over self-regulating. Can you tell us a little bit more when you talk about self-regulating, what that looks like for you and how you do it, or something you've learnt from it that can be useful to people listening?
I don't know.
Do you think it's very individual to you? Are there strategies that help, or is it?
Yeah, strategies that help for me is if I get triggered into something. So like with BPD, you know, we have a lot of like fear of abandonment or fear that people don't like us. So like, for an example, if like I message someone, like if I messaged a friend and they didn't reply, like straight away, I would freak out and think they don't like me anymore. So what I've tried to learn is that's literally just my brain reacting to a situation, but it's not necessarily happening. It could literally just be that the person is busy or they're sick. It could literally be anything. Like, for example, my brother's got a new girlfriend, and I've built like a really, really strong relationship with her because her little sister has borderline as well. So we've built since he's been with her, we've built a very strong rapport. And she was sick the other day. And then when I was sick, I thought I gave it to her. So I was freaking out and I was like, oh, I feel guilty because, you know, you got me, I feel like I got you sick. And she was like, no, don't be silly. You know, that literally is an example of me thinking I've done something, but in reality, she's just caught something else, like a cold or whatever.
That's so insightful
Like
for you to say that. And I think if people hear that, they will understand.
Yeah.
And they will now be able to give you what you need because you've explained it in a way that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, trying to understand how people respond to things is also important. So thinking...
Yeah, understanding people's perspective on what they're thinking on maybe something you've done or something you've said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So how can people in your support network, friends, family, support workers, how can they support you through your journey?
Like Michaela was saying before, it's really important for people to try and understand why I might be thinking the way I'm thinking. So it could be, that I'm having a strong reaction to something, like we were saying before. If people understand that my brain works differently and I might have a stronger reaction to something, if people understand where I'm coming from and validate my feelings, that is very helpful, and it builds better rapport and a better relationship.
A connection with you.
Yeah, connection.
Yeah. And a trust, maybe? A trust from you that if they don't reply within 35 seconds, you can maybe trust that relationship.
Yeah.
Things are okay. It's going to be fine. They must be busy because I trust that relationship.
Yes, that's definitely helpful for me. Just thinking it's fine, she's probably just busy. The world doesn't have to come to an end because they're not replying. Like, it's just...
I think in essence, like, again, philosophical, this could... Hold on to your seats, guys. This could be one.
Here we go.
We all do think, that the world revolves around us. We're all selfish inherently. We all look after number one. And that's biologically, evolutionarily why we've had to, because to pass on our gene. That's the nature of the way our brains have been designed over millennia.
So I don't know if you can agree with this, Moni, or not, but from my personal experience with ADHD and my own mental health journey, do you think you'd agree with sometimes people like to pretend it doesn't exist around you and things like that? And sometimes I get the feeling like maybe they do so because they think that that's going to make me feel better. And they think that, if they, I guess, air quotations, buy into it, that they're going to be fueling it. But for me personally, when they actually accept it, I find it much easier to put my coping mechanisms into place. And I actually find that my ADHD symptoms are a little more relaxed and actually aren't as prevalent when there's more acceptance around it. I get a little less triggered by things. And I know that some people get into the headspace that, they shouldn't, acknowledge it and fuel it and build it up. But sometimes when someone gives you that understanding, it actually, I don't know how to articulate it properly, but it actually calms me down.
It validates you, and
it
relaxes you and puts you into the green zone. It puts you into a safe space.
And it doesn't mean that there's going to be more triggers and that I'm asking for an excuse or I'm asking to get away with things or anything like that. When they actually accept it, and that I can help, it helps me to accept it, and it actually helps me to manage it.
And it gives you a confidence in the relationship. It's a trust thing as well, I think.
Yeah. Do you feel that?
Yeah, definitely. When I started to accept why I was doing certain behaviours and why it was happening, that was very good for me to start then learning and breaking down, okay, why am I doing these things? Why is there why am I reacting in this way? Whereas when I was younger, I just sort of pushed it down and was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with me, But yeah, having acceptance is a very important thing. That's why I've got the acceptance tattoo.
Yeah. I forgot about that actually. Yeah. There you go.
I think you touched before on, sitting with the emotions and experiencing them fully. and letting them dissipate, just knowing and having the confidence. Emotions are fleeting. This is a temporary feeling. I'm not going to feel this way forever. It will pass.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that confidence will grow the more that you challenge yourself to continue on this growth mindset journey in understanding yourself and being the best Moni that you can be.
A topic that you previously spoke about, Ryan, just jumping to, a little bit off topic, but it might actually be interesting to you to actually get a first-hand opinion on it, is Moni mentioned, she went to Emerson, which does that fall under the special needs school?
Yep.
What does Moni think about them closing down special needs schools?
What do you think?
Yeah.
What was your experience like?
Well, my experience, as I mentioned before, some of it wasn't great because I was being bullied.
What year? How old were you when you started at Emerson?
Year 3.
Like grade 3.
Grade 3.
So, all right. And so, what are your thoughts on closing those schools?
And if you had to go to mainstream school instead?
Oh no, I would have hated it.
Yeah, that's how we needed to phrase the question.
Yeah. School isn't, necessarily the best experience for anyone at all times.
Yeah.
So even though your experience was difficult,
it was better than mainstream because I was around different people with different needs, and it's taught me how to also be accepting of people that have different, disabilities and different
diagnoses.
Yeah, diagnoses. Thank you. Yeah, different, and learning how to sort of accept that everyone is sort of different in their own way. So being around people that have similar issues to me was very helpful. I made a lot of friends, but also at the same time I was being bullied. But I still managed to make some friends because I could connect with them better than being at a mainstream. Because if I was at a mainstream school, people would be like, "Oh, you're weird," because I acted different. People would be like, "Oh, well, you're weird. I don't want to be your friend." Whereas being at Emerson, everyone had different issues or disabilities, and it was a lot easier for me to connect with them.
Do you think it was a mindset in terms of the way the school, like it's hard for you to compare it, not going to other schools, whereas I have been at other schools and I can see the parallels and the contrast, the differences. Do you think that how would the kids have coped at a mainstream school, do you think, where you're expected to go to, you go to art, pick up your books, and you go to maths, and you're with different people all the time. There's different teachers. They don't really understand you.
Yeah.
And you might see one teacher for 3 periods a week.
Yeah. Well, I actually went to mainstream before I was at Emerson. So I was from prep to year 3. I was in a mainstream school. I didn't cope. And then from year 3, I was at Emerson for a year, and it didn't really work out. So I went back to a mainstream school. So from year 3 to year 7, I was in a mainstream school.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I went back to Emerson. So from year 3 to year 7.
Yeah, well, you've got the perfect contrast then.
I experienced mainstream and it was awful.
What was it? I mean, without going and naming the experience in the school or any things that happened, what was it, as a total that made it an awful experience?
I didn't like the change.
Yeah.
So from primary school was okay. So for like year 3 to year 6 was okay, apart from being bullied. So I was being bullied because, I was a bit different to everybody else because I was at a mainstream school.
But because you're in the same class, same teacher,
yeah,
set up like Emerson is.
It was a lot easier. When I hit high school, I couldn't cope because all of a sudden it was different teachers for different subjects. I didn't fit in with anyone. I was being really badly bullied by one particular boy. I was going home crying, begging mum to pull me out of this school. And I couldn't cope with all the different change and stuff like that. And I just begged her to go back to Emerson. So I went back to Emerson from year 7 to year 12. So I graduated at Emerson.
That takes a lot of courage to go, try it, go away. No, I want to go back, and having confidence to do that. Not everyone can do that. Some people are very, egotistical, like, no, I know what the right thing is for me. And some people might have opted out of education completely at that point. School doesn't work for me. I don't like the system. I'm not going. I'm staying at home.
Yeah.
So good on you for doing that. That's that attitude has clearly stuck with you, and that's a part of your character because of the way you've confronted things that have happened to you after school.
Yeah, definitely.
Moni is very good at. I mean, sometimes I ask you, oh, can we do some washing? Can we clean your room or something? Yeah, and that's the reaction I get. And I know you're like, I do not want to do this, but
you don't want to do washing? You don't do vacuuming?
No.
What's wrong with you?
No, but like Moni has really.
Who wants to do washing and vacuuming?
Stop it. No, but she's very resilient with a lot of different things, and she shows me those emotions of being like, this is frustrating, this is irritating, I don't want to do this, but she perseveres, and that is something that honestly, then I come home and maybe there's something that I don't want to do, and I'm like, I got to do it. I'm
glad you said it.
Yeah,
I'll stop it. No, but it's obviously a strength that you've built up. Yeah, you've built that resilience and I don't know if resilience is the right word, but perseverance up over the years. And it sounds like you started building that at a very young age.
Yeah.
So it's something that a lot of us I think could learn from.
So is it difficult to find groups of people that have non-visible disability for you to connect with?
Yeah.
Yeah. Lacking, do you think, just in the community?
In the community, yeah, because I'll go to groups where everyone's not at a level where I'm going to make a connection, but then I'm not going to make a connection at a mainstream group because, I'm a bit different, and sometimes people in a mainstream group, like I was saying before, think I'm a bit weird. So it's hard to find, like you're saying, that like middle ground where people just with some social issues or, BPD, some mental health issues, find that group where they connect with people and have similar.
I think you have a lot to teach people within the community who might not necessarily fit these groups of, non-visible disability. You have a lot to teach people in general. So maybe finding groups, just hearing that, like an art group, pottery, something like that where, the interest is the focus, is the hobby, that's the focus, and then the relationships become exterior to that. Because for me it was basketball, and I think it's hard to meet and make friends anywhere as it is. I don't love going out into the community and going particularly to go and meet people, but when there's a similar interest like basketball, you just over the time you develop a relationship and you end up hanging out socially. And that's where I think maybe making friends can be, maybe it's a misunderstanding in sort of how we look to find connection within this world. But yeah, then you would go and, for my journey, you go to training, you're there training twice a week, and then you're playing games. And you might not even have conversations with the people on your team, some of them, and others, you have a joke with them and you just form a connection, and then you start hanging out outside of that, or you're training together in the gym, or you're training together, getting up shots before a game, and then the connections build and build over time. And it's all stemmed from, being in the same environment, playing basketball, but then you like each other as people. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So exploring perhaps different, journeys, because I know that what you said, not being able to find these groups, it's lacking. It's lacking in the community, and it's really, really hard. And you can't just force a bunch of people to go and hang out together and expect them to have a good time and go, there you go, friendship. What's your problem? It doesn't work like that.
No, not quite. And I'm very quiet and shy when I'm around people that don't have issues. So like at basketball, I have a good time at basketball, but I'm very clingy to dad because I feel uncomfortable around people that sort of don't have sort of the same issues as me, or like I feel like I'm going to be judged by them. So I'm very attached to my dad on like Tuesday nights, and he goes, stop being silly, go join the conversation. And it's like, for me, it's not that simple because I get very anxious talking to them, and I get really uncomfortable.
It's a risk to let people in, right?
Yeah.
To let people close to what's vulnerable about Moni. I think that's, would take a lot of courage, and that's a challenge that I extend to you, is to, try to form one connection and explain to them about you and who you are. And look, it might not be tomorrow, but down the track, because I think that's going to make you be a better person, and you're very mature and reflective, and you understand yourself. And I'm hoping that will give you the confidence about yourself, that you are a good person and you have a lot to give this world. Right? That's genuine.
Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I've learnt a lot from our chats in the car when we're traveling to various destinations. And yeah, I tend to agree with Ryan in the sense that you got to share some of this golden knowledge.
Well, I mean, it's a lot of courage to sit here right now and talk about this, and I know you've been looking forward to it, and you've been very, resilient and committed to wanting to do it, and that's to help others. You're doing that as a selfless act. How has it been working with your support workers like Michaela? Not necessarily Michaela, but, working with support workers. Has it been a strange experience for you?
At first, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it was like having a stranger come into my space. And it was like, at first, a couple of companies that I dealt with weren't great companies. So there would be support workers that wouldn't be in the job for the right reason. I remember having like one support worker that couldn't remember my name, and we went off on like shift and stuff like that, and she would walk off and leave me by myself and think I was totally fine to be by myself when she's there to support me. And then like I just cut off the shift early, and she was like at the end of shift, "Oh, what's your name again?" Like she couldn't remember my name. So
yeah.
like some of my experience.
I don't even know what to say to that. But yeah, unfortunately, like I said, it is an underskilled industry, and we could probably do a whole nother podcast on this topic and your experiences. But yeah, like, have you got any others? Because I'd love you to share them.
How old were you when you first started working with support workers?
I think just after high school. Okay. I think about 19, 20.
Yeah.
Had support workers fall asleep on shift. Had support workers just look at their phone and not talk to me.
Yeah.
It's just been a mixture, but definitely since...
I can't imagine that would make you feel very valued.
Oh no, I'd be on the phone to Mum, and then Mum would be really stressed out because I would be upset.
Yeah.
And she'd be worried about something triggering me, and what am I going to do with that trigger?
Yeah, yeah. And it's a position of responsibility that you hold as a support worker. You have to understand the impact that you can have on someone's life. You're a role model, whether you like it or not. So if you're sitting there, and you are on your phone, people see that and they're aware of it. And yeah, it wouldn't make you feel valued at all.
No, it's definitely a big trigger for me because I feel like they're not listening. If I'm talking to them, if they're looking at their phone, I feel like they're not showing an interest.
And like it's a hard job. It's a hard job to listen and to be a mental, emotional, and physical support to someone else. But that's the job. And
I feel like if you can't do it, then don't do the job. Like, don't sign up for it if you feel like you can't deal with people. Yeah.
Specifically when they're working, in your home environment. Someone comes into your space and they're like, "Okay, Moni, you need to do this, do your washing and do that." And you're like, "Excuse me? Like, you're in my home and now you're going to start dictating to me what I'm supposed to do."
Yeah.
This is why my philosophy has always been the rapport, the kindness and the rapport. It's paramount. If you don't have a relationship and a trust, there's nothing.
I find that when I have a better relationship with a support worker, I'm more likely to listen. So if Michaela asks me to clean my room, I'm more likely to listen to Michaela because I have a rapport with her.
But also, I've asked you, what is it that you don't like about cleaning your room, or how can I help? What makes you feel better? Does it make you feel better if we work on a task together? Do you want me to help? Do you not want me to help? And I think that's where the difference is as well, is that I'm there to support Moni. So I want to know what helps her. So then I tailor our time together according to that advice that she's given me. And personally, I've found that we either work on a task together or we kind of delegate together, don't we?
Mm.
And sometimes it's more of like a body doubling thing.
Setting a clock has been good. So if Michaela puts the timer on for 10 minutes and she goes, okay, we're going to clean for 10 minutes and then we can do something fun. So, and then that is a good way for me to learn, because then I know when the timer goes off, me and Michaela are going to do something fun and I get to have fun. But it's also important to remember that we have to do those life skills before we get to have fun, I guess.
Fantastic.
But there's no reason that...
so you'll be a reference for Michaela?
Hey! No, that's good.
So what advice can you give for keeping healthy boundaries while enjoying your time together? That was one. Are there any others?
It's kind of hard because at first I'd get really attached to support workers and think that they're my friend. And that hasn't really worked, because when there's a personal relationship, a lot of the boundaries get blurred. It's really hard because I spend so much time with Michaela and we're close in age. She's only 4 years older. Yeah. 4 years older. So we're close in age. So it's hard to not become friends when you're spending that much time with someone. But for me, it's important to remember that she's not my friend. She's there to come and support me with everything, and she can hang out with me, but we can't, talk or message each other after hours, because when those lines get blurred, there's not a healthy relationship. I've had support workers where the lines get blurred and then it just doesn't work.
Yeah, that's really insightful. And again, the fact that you know yourself and that's what you need. I'm really impressed with how reflective you are. Always have been.
I think we're both quite good at keeping the boundaries in place because, and I probably speak for myself in this part.
Like, you speaking for yourself?
We do enjoy our Saturdays together. So I think we both respect that relationship, that working relationship, that we want to keep those boundaries in place so that it is sustainable and we can keep working together. And as I said before, kicking the goals that we're kicking.
Is that a conversation that you two have had?
We've spoken about boundaries.
We've spoken about it, yeah.
Did anyone in particular bring it up that you recall?
Moni
yeah,
did.
I think I did, yeah, because I expressed to Michaela that in the past when I've kind of become friends with support workers, it hasn't really worked. Yeah.
Is that a conversation that you've had with other support workers after, Moni, Michaela, without naming names? Is it a conversation that you now regularly bring up with supports? Yeah.
Because I've had quite a few new support workers come in and I have mentioned it, yeah.
Yeah, especially with moving houses and things, there's bound to be that change as well.
Yeah, definitely.
It is, unfortunately, the nature of the industry as well. It's like it can have a lot of change. And we all, some of us don't cope with change as well as others.
Yeah, definitely.
What impact has borderline personality disorder had on your relationships?
Definitely a very big relationship with my parents, because they have been involved in every police incident, every incident where they've had to scream at hospital staff because they're sending me home when I haven't been, well enough to go home. But the hospital says, oh, no, she's fine. And mum and dad have gotten quite annoyed.
So it's had a huge effect on you, your family situation.
Yeah.
And that relationship with them. What about other personal relationships, do you think? Friends,
yeah. Friends, definitely. Because I think sometimes the behaviours that I would do would be too much for other people, and they would sort of throw their hands up and go, well, this girl is too much. And I think sometimes, I cling on to people a lot. Like I always say, I cling on to people like a koala bear. I just cling on to them.
Don't let go.
Don't let go until, and then people are like, whoa, but I'm learning that, especially for an example, with my brother's new girlfriend, because we built that rapport, I try and remember that, okay, yes, Lily's my friend, but she's not all mine. She's Wade's girlfriend, my brother. So I have to try and remember that sometimes, Lily and Wade are going to do things together and I'm not going to be involved. But other times I get to do things with Lily where Wade's not there. So it's like a bit of give and take, that I can't take all the attention away because, Lily, is the girlfriend. So I can't. Yeah.
Yeah, and you understand that boundary.
Balancing that, yeah.
Yeah, within yourself.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you'd like to talk about or bring up?
Probably the housing system. Go on that a little bit.
Okay.
So the housing system in Australia is pretty poor. I reckon I've moved about 8 times in the last 4 years trying to find something suitable. I've been homeless, I've been in hotels, and it's literally because the system doesn't have enough housing for people with mental health issues. If you apply for social housing, it can take 10 years for you to get a house. I remember applying and I would say, oh yeah, how long is it going to take? And they're like, oh yeah, 10 years. And I was like, oh, it's just ridiculous.
Set that timer.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's just, and then it being in a SIL house as well, like we mentioned before, being involved in that is quite hard because SIL companies hire people that don't have the correct qualifications, and then a lot of SIL companies take advantage of the fact that they're working with someone that has a certain disability and they can suck all the money out of them.
Yeah, I mean, the world is run by incentives, and
yeah,
it's just there's not the workforce out there to cope with the demand or that the NDIS is sort of expected of it. And yeah, the training and education behind it, it's imperative. You're working with people that are so vulnerable, and there's a responsibility there. So if you as a company aren't providing that to your workers, then it's an obligation that you've missed. So, I mean, what is there anything that you think would solve the problem with this housing situation at the moment?
Oh, I don't have any answers to that.
Well, if you had some, I was going to send this to Anthony Albanese and the government. So, but you don't. So,
No.
Oh well. Just like the rest of us, no one's got the solution to this housing crisis.
Yeah.
But no, it's you're talking about a home. There's such an emotional connection with where you live and where you spend your time. So I'm sure it's confronting for you to have to continually pack up and move at other people's discretion and on a whim, designed and implicated by them. It will be very challenging.
Yeah, it is. Yeah,
and uncomfortable, and you want that security in you set up friend networks and group access to different places and get memberships at gyms and whatever else, and then you have to pack up and move.
Yeah, so
and when you don't have a car and you're getting around.
Yeah, it's hard. So I settle in one place and get used to the sort of area and used to being around certain people. Then I have to move.
and the support workers as well, if they're if they're coming and going too. So new people coming into your environment, it must be extremely difficult. And I've never thought about it as closely as what you've just explained it. How difficult it actually must be to be in that situation.
Yeah, definitely.
And then having people in your home who, I think a big sort of issue that we've touched on in this talk, and hopefully, maybe a few people will listen to this and gain a little bit more insight and knowledge, but it really is an underskilled industry. And I think people forget we're dealing with people and their lives, and we're going into their homes, as you said.
Yeah, it's a bit different to sort of, being behind the counter at Bunnings or being a mortgage broker and, talking with them. Yeah, it's a personal thing, but you are talking to people about their needs and their intimate things about their lives and learning and knowing intimate things about them as a person. And it's a lot more complicated than just rocking up and just, I'll just take them bowling. I'll just take Moni bowling, problem solved. There's a huge responsibility that comes with how you interact and the things that you say. And if you're not upskilling yourself, if you're not having a growth mindset and educating yourself worldly and on people and on behavioral psychology, then you're doing a disservice to people, at the industry, and society. Is there anything that either of you want to add? Moni?
No, I think we've pretty much covered everything.
Yeah, I think just even if you're not working in the industry, I just urge people to educate themselves. I don't know, get curious about how the human mind works and how people's disabilities and emotional needs vary, and listen to a podcast or two.
This one?
This one would help, yes. Just learn something, and you might be able to have a positive impact on someone in your life, someone you might not even realize needs that support that you come in contact with.
Moni, you've been so articulate, so reflective, and shown so much courage in talking about the things that we've talked about here and coming here and doing this. So I really appreciate it. I know people are going to get a lot out of that. And I thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity, Ryan.
And thanks, Michaela.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks again for taking the time to listen. Stay tuned for further episodes released weekly. If you want to get in touch with me or a support worker from Skilled Carer, please contact us at skilledcarer@gmail.com. Check the website, www.skilledcarer.com, or leave a voice note here. We are always keen on chatting with people about opportunities and learning how we can support you and your family to make your life easier.